Are realtors ripping off their clients? See,
Well, the CPC says that they are, but we're going to kind of break that down a little bit. So, my name's Alan Richardson. I'm the managing broker here at Maximum One Realty Partners.
my name's Ming Richardson. I'm the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
And the CPC, the Consumer Policy Center, um, said that, they put out this new report. Look, real estate fees, buyers, sellers are grossly overpaying for compensation. And needless to say, we don't agree. Now, are we biased?
Of course.
100%. There's no doubt. Now that being said, am I also like, can I see the writing that's on the wall? The Consumer Policy Center hates us for the most part. And I know that that's a very general term, that kind of stuff, but they don't see any value in what we do and that kind of stuff. And so they put out these reports which just really kind of bash realtors in general, and all real estate agents, kind of in particular. So on their newest report they just put out, kind of thing, they said, look, they put this big report out. Hey, we were really expecting after the NAR settlement that we were going to see, especially buyer agent compensation, drop. We are, like we thought that this happening. We really pushed for this to happen. We were very supportive of this happening because we thought that it was going to take, that it was going to cut your fees. And so, and they put out this 22-page report, and they
And
said,
basically stated that it has not dropped.
not as a nice drop. They're unhappy about it. They're like, well, there's something, like this is jacked up. Like the fact that agent compensation didn't drop. We think that something must be really really wrong. That there is a fundamental problem in real estate because it's supposed to drop. And so they assume in their analysis, they say that buyers and sellers are overpaying between what 6,000
Hmm.
and like $12,000 on
Penny on
a,
the sale price.
yeah, that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty big jump. Now let's talk about why they say that our compensation didn't go down. Well, first thing is that they say that there's this misconception in real estate that lower compensation means lower quality. And I firmly agree, right? And that's one thing that drives me up the wall. They're like, um, they have this idea that higher fees doesn't reflect greater experience, and it shouldn't, and that compensation should not be based on percentage. Compensation should be a flat fee. And then they also say that,
What I think is very interesting that our industry is probably one of the most regulated, or people look at us more closely than any other business. Um, America is built on capitalism, and I feel like this is against capitalism to a certain extent. How you can provide a better service, a better product, if you don't have the knowledge. Most of us that are in real estate have a wealth of knowledge that is acquired throughout the years. It's not just take your test, let's go. It doesn't work like that.
right. The other thing, the other two areas, and Ming just touched on one, is that they say, well, look, these other countries are paying a lot
Do you
less.
know what happened to the country?
Yeah, yeah. And then they're saying that agents steering away from higher compensation, or from lower
Lower
compensation, is
compensation.
a big deal. So let's kind of break these down one by one here, because like that's really going to be the best way to kind of get to it. And so in their report, they really named three countries: Great Britain, the Netherlands, and
And
Australia.
Australia.
Now we have some particular knowledge about Australia for sure. Like my mom lives there. Like we've visited Australia. We've looked at
We
real.
actually went to the real estate
Oh yeah,
office.
we've looked at real estate. And do you know what? In these countries where they're comparing compensation to, there's only one agent involved, right?
It's
I mean,
only the listing agent, and
right.
there's absolutely no buyer brokerage over there. So if you're looking at compare a country that has absolutely no buyer brokerage where it represents the buyer and for the protection of the buyer, there is none.
Well, not only that, like when you talk to people we've talked to a lot of people that bought real estate in these other countries, and you know what? The experience stinks. It's not a great experience. They don't have a multiple listing service. So over there, each listing company lists their
It's
properties,
local. There's
right?
nowhere
And
else.
so if you want to see this house, you go see that realtor. If you want to go see the house down the street, you
You
go
got to see
find
the other
that
realtor.
realtor. And so there's one agent involved, but their closing settlement fees for like attorneys and things like that are much higher. So yeah, it's true that they are less than these other countries, but they're also not getting the service. The other thing is we're in America. We are here in the US. And I'm sorry, and I don't mean this in a political way, but it's different here. Bite me, right? Like this is how we do it. We have buyer brokerage. We also have seller brokerage here. So we represent buyers and sellers. These other countries only represent one side of the transaction, and so you're not comparing apples to apples.
And not only that, for convenience sakes, most of us like the freedom of convenience. How are you going to have that convenience? We have no national MLS over those country, and you have to go by real estate office to real estate office to real estate office to find out which property is really available.
Talk about
I
crappy
mean, you're
service, yeah.
talking about I mean, we here, yes, in America, we do pay for convenience. We pay for knowledge. We pay for information, and but through that, we also learn how can we best do certain things at a reasonable price, and the service is provided.
Yeah. The other thing they say is that discounted pricing would sure save Americans a lot of money, and so their position is that Americans don't that they see the discounted models out there,
Agency.
and then they say, "Gosh, maybe those aren't as good." And that I'm sorry, it's kind of true. And so like we've had discounters in our marketplace.
For a very long time.
I mean, like for a very very long time. And so we have a lot of discounted brokerages out there. We've had Redfin for years that takes in 1% and sends it back to there. We've had flat fee listing services. We've had a lot of companies that have done that for years. So they're in our marketplace.
We're
They're,
not stopping them from practicing
No,
at
no.
all.
But the big deal is that they tend to have lower client satisfaction scores. They're folks like they don't have this big returning base of clients. Now, I'm not bashing any discounters. That's not what my goal here is. But just
I kind of
overall to say, like if their model was so much better and people were seeing what this great value was, wouldn't their businesses be blowing up instead of just like eking along, that kind of stuff?
It's almost like saying, "Oh, I can go to Longhorn and or go Golden Corral expecting Longhorn quality when the quality's different." Yes, Golden Corral has much broader variety, but
Yeah.
Longhorn's products are better. So, it's almost scrutinizing our industry to where that we don't deserve something when we really have worked for our compensation.
Yeah. Now the other thing here that they didn't really mention, but we just going to want to throw it out there is like, if this was so easy,
Why don't we have more for sale by owner?
yeah, guess what? For sale by owners at its lowest level ever. Okay, now,
Absolutely.
and I say that ever. Okay, so if this was just this really easy thing and it was no big deal, wouldn't you think that for sale by owner would be really jacking up? So
And it's not.
yeah. So the next data point that they throw out is that what, agents are steering clients away from homes that are not offering compensation. And you know what? That's just BS. Like part of this whole
Here in
deal.
Georgia, we as the agent, when we make an offer, we will let all party know whether or not compensation is being paid by the seller or the buyer. So there's transparency. There's no steering.
But
And
it even starts before then,
yes,
because now, in order for us to be able to show listed properties, we must have a buyer brokerage agreement. And part of that buyer brokerage agreement is we negotiate with our buyers. Our buyers agree or negotiate how much our fee is going to be. Now, we could ask that the seller pays it, the buyer may pay it, it may get paid a part of closing costs. But the bottom line is that those fees are negotiated before we start showing property. right? So if I've already negotiated with Ming, and before we even look at property, I don't care what property we go look at because Ming is paying me. I've negotiated with Ming. Now, we may ask the seller to pay. Ming may need to cover part of it, that kind of stuff. But because we have a buyer brokerage agreement prior to showing property, then why would we steer anybody away from anything? It doesn't make any sense, right?
To me, this is a agency is trying to make another agency look bad when they don't really know how we practice.
Yeah,
Now in Georgia, we practice with agency. We are very transparent. I can't say that for all states,
I don't know
but
how
I
all states
know
work. Yeah.
in Georgia here we are on target in
Yeah.
transparencies.
Well, the other thing, especially here in Georgia, like sellers do not have to pay a buyer's agent compensation. They
No.
don't, they're not required to.
Mm-mm.
However, if they can't or if they won't, then that falls back onto the buyer because again, the buyer has negotiated with their agent. Now, if the seller says, no, I'm not going to pay, well, then that's not a steering issue. That's an affordability issue for the buyer. Is the buyer ready to come out of pocket? Now, by the way, when that seller is selling that is buying their next home, are they going to want to pay out of pocket for their agent? Because compensation really is important. Like we have to understand that that's how it really is going, right? So compensation is very, very. I mean, not compensation. Uh, you know, having representation in a transaction, like most Americans, this is something they're going to do every 10 years, roughly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the most expensive asset that they own. The idea that someone would want to go into the most expensive asset they own on something that they do on a very inconsistent basis every 10 years, 4 or 5 times in their lifetime for a lot of Americans, and want to go into that and be like, nah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't think we have to worry about it, that kind of stuff. And that's why we put these new rules in place. And now we have a lot of transparency that goes through that entire thing. Um, One other point that they wanted to point out is that, you know what, realtors should not be paid based on the sale price. Like the job that Ming would do
I
representing
would
me
love to go to an
would
attorney
be
firm or any other firm, tell them that, and tell their head CEO, CFO that you're capped out. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care how many hours you have to work. I don't care late nights. I don't care the stress. You're capped out at X amount dollar because the product you're dealing with is higher value than the average.
see, that just doesn't make sense. I'll be honest with you. When we sell a more expensive property, we spend more to market and to prepare that property, and we do a lot of things that
And
the average
sometimes
consumer doesn't
our
see.
listing may never ever turn to sale. That is a cost of business for us. So there's a lot of cost of business, and we do not get paid until the day of closing
Yeah,
when the fund tax change. So a lot of people think, oh, you got on your books X amount of dollar that you're getting ready to close and blah blah blah. And sometimes is scenario that's not due to our control. It may be a lender or a borrower that done something or did not understand the rules of engagement that we don't close. And therefore, all that money we have spent, all the expenses, all the traveling, all the time away from family, those are expenses that we pick up to get absolutely nothing.
yeah,
So that is cost of business for us, and we know that. And so this is why I feel like, how is someone to judge us on what we can earn when,
yeah,
we have done the services?
yeah. They compare us to pencil salesmen, basically, and with a pencil salesman, the more you sell, the more your profits your employer makes. And they say, well, it doesn't work that way. Well, understand, we're not employees. We're not selling widgets. We're not selling
We're
pencils,
selling
right?
unique
A
products.
very unique product that requires knowledge and expertise. Not only that, like Ming said, we don't get paid unless we close, right? And so our entire industry is based on pay it forward, right? We're always paying it forward out there. So, every phone call that we make, when we share properties online, when we text
Market
out,
any listings.
yeah, we send text mail.
text messages and
And
emails,
thank you very much for saving me there.
and that social media posts and engagement. All these things, tools, CE class for further
Yeah,
education,
when
so we
we educate
understand
ourselves, that kind of stuff. Our MLS subscriptions, the money we spend on those.
the membership dues.
Yeah, our CRMs, our client relationship managers, our marketing platforms. These are all expenses. Like
That we
the fees
have.
to the brokers, that kind of stuff. That all these are expenses that nobody sees in a transaction.
No, and the general public won't see it because this is just cost of doing business for us. But with that cost, we expect there's a reward for that. Just
Yeah,
like any other job, when you have a higher education, higher experience, you're expected. And let me tell you, agents doesn't go into a luxury market right after school. That
yeah.
is something that's earned over time experience. So to say that you can't make X amount in a luxury market, that's totally wrong because it's like saying, I want a Wagyu steak, but you want to pay a price of a country fried steak. You
Yeah.
can't do, there's no comparison of quality.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is you got to look at what is knowledge and experience worth. So, like right after, uh, so George Washington, when he
Oh,
returned
yeah, I
to
like this
private
one.
life, right? He was a huge surveyor, and so he did a lot of surveying, consulting work, that kind of stuff. And a local landowner out around Washington um, asked him to settle a boundary dispute and determine where the property line was and should be marked. And then he went and he did the work and he carefully placed the stakes where it needed to go. And later on, he sent an invoice.
No, this
And
is back in way days,
this is
okay?
back in the day, right? And the landowner, he was shocked. He's like, how can this bill be this much? I need an itemized breakdown. And so Washington supposedly sent him an invoice that basically said, placing the stake,
One
$1.
dollar,
Knowing where to place the stake, $99.
$99.
Right? That's a big difference, right? And I get that. Back in those days, $100 would have been, I
Huge.
mean, like massive, right? But the whole idea was George Washington knew where to place the stake, right? He knew what kind of experience, he knew what he was doing. And like that person wanting to settle the land dispute went to someone who could protect them, who could be the
Hmm.
a knowledgeable resource, just like we are today. And there's value in that. And I really don't see that the CPC values what we do to bring forward this entire industry out
I would
here.
love someone to go on CPC and start analyze their salary. Say, hey, you can't make this. Come
Ming's a
on.
little bitter. Yeah.
Not bitter,
Yeah.
just that I don't understand where some people have feel like they have a control in trying to influence the public to say how much or how little you can make.
Yeah.
That's socialism, you guys. No offense.
Yeah. Now, the National Association of Realtors actually released a report which listed 179 ways that realtors earn their compensation. It starts off with pre-listing, then listing presentations, listing appointments, offers, contracts, inspections, home inspections, processing, closing, appraisals, all the things that we do. And by the way, you can pull this right off the National Association of Realtors site out
Website.
there. And so
That's part of the tool for being a realtor.
yeah, I mean, it's smart, but like there's 179 things that we do to bring value to a transaction. I think a couple of, like in their report, the CPC recommended a few things. And honestly, I don't necessarily disagree with them, right? That for the sellers, you have that discussion with your agent. For the buyers, that you go out and shop agents and talk to people and build a level of confidence. I agree with that. I also think that for us, we need to make sure that we are talking about the value that we
We
bring
provide.
to a transaction, whether it's the 179 points that the National Association of Realtors talks about, but looking at what is your value proposition? What do you bring to the transaction? How can you provide more value for your clients to where, like, even though the CPC may not like us and may not want that, our client satisfaction scores as an industry tend to be very, very high. Like if that was the case, then we wouldn't last as an industry. So it's very important that we look at the value that we bring in every transaction, and that you individually, as a realtor, as an agent, like look at the value that you're bringing to your
Mhm.
clients right now, because that's what's going to lead to really strong business and us protecting our industry moving forward, as opposed to
And
the way
honestly,
the dodo.
at the end of the day, real estate is about relationship. Everybody knows about 5 or 6 different realtors within their circle.
Mhm.
So, what is the difference between choosing you or someone else? It's about a real relationship and the confidence they have in you and the trust they have in you, based on their interaction, your expertise, and the way you carry yourself. So, if you are always serving the community, I promise you that will come back.
Always. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Bye now.